Jesus is the Good Shepherd. And as we continue our celebration of this time of Easter, this fourth Sunday of Easter always focuses our attention on Jesus as our Good Shepherd. And this rural image of shepherding, as most of us are aware, is not as close to us as it was in days gone by. That certainly in the ancient world, sheep and shepherds occupied most of people's experience. So today we need to do a little bit more work to understand this beautiful image of Jesus as the Good Shepherd. In the Gospel, according to John today, there are two images of Jesus as the shepherd. First, he describes himself as the shepherd, and then the second image in the latter part of the gospel, that he is the gate itself. As we do on Tuesdays with the staff, we always read the scriptures, the gospel, and then we reflect on it. So we had a lot of questions, the staff and I, about these shepherding images and what they might mean for us. So I took the opportunity to do a little research about shepherding in the time of Jesus. So if one was a shepherd and you were coming back home into a rather large town, there was a common sheep gate, a common area, a pen, as it were, for your sheep. And it allowed the shepherd to maybe take a bath or have a meal with their family, or be able to sleep on a more comfortable bed. So the shepherd would lead his sheep into town, and there would be a common pen. And that pen not only held your sheep, but they held other shepherd sheep as well. So imagine this section being sort of divided up, and many people's sheep were in this pen. So the image Jesus is using is that the shepherd calls the sheep out by name. Now, I don't know a lot about sheep. I know that they're not the most intelligent animals around, and they're not as soft as they look. If you've ever pet a sheep, their fur is a little bit gnarly. But it's amazing that the sheep recognize the shepherd's voice. So imagine 10 shepherd sheep in this little area here, and when it's time for them to go out to pasture, the sheep actually follow their shepherd. The shepherd calls their voices, and they follow. And the shepherd then leads them out of the town to graze, to green pastures. The other image that is in the Gospels today, in the second part of John's Gospel, is that of Jesus as the gate itself. And this is the image that was a little bit more confusing to us as we read the scriptures in preparation for this weekend. And it turns out that in fields where there would be common shepherding, where there was green grass, shepherds would build, again, a kind of pen. And those pens would then hold the sheep inside of it at night. And there was an opening in the pen, wide enough so that the shepherd himself, imagine this, the shepherd himself would actually lay across the opening, so the sheep could not get out. So Jesus, as our good shepherd, is the one who lays down his life for the sheep. And it was a rather literal understanding of the shepherd himself was the gate. No one could get in or out unless they crawled over the shepherd. So then we have all these images of people who want to steal and slaughter the sheep. Sheep were very valuable in the time of Jesus and still today. So this image of the shepherd who lays down his life is so very prevalent for us. And Jesus, as he evoked these images of a shepherd, people understood the important role of the shepherd. The shepherd's life was certainly one of humility. Many, many days in a row they would be spending outside in the weather, in the elements, in the heat. and they themselves had to safeguard the sheep. So one of the images that we can certainly take away from this image of Jesus as the Good Shepherd who calls the sheep by name, they follow, and in pasture, the shepherd lays across that gate, lays down his life, certainly is one of unity or oneness. The shepherd and the sheep know one another. The shepherd and the sheep know one another. And we are invited to be in that same kind of relationship with Jesus. Jesus knows us, and we are to know Jesus. Jesus knows the way that we are, whether we need to stick close to him, or whether we're a sheep that sometimes likes to stray, or a sheep that might be a little bit rambunctious. Jesus knows us. There's an intimate relationship between the shepherd and the sheep. And the second image that I think that we can take away, other than oneness, is that of dedication. Jesus dedicates his life, his presence for our life and salvation. And we have a need to have that same kind of dedication back to Jesus. That as we follow the Good Shepherd, we dedicate our lives to him as well. There's a kind of oneness and a kind of dedication that the Lord has for us and that we ought to have for the Lord. It's a beautiful coincidence that this Good Shepherd Sunday falls on Mother's Day. Because when we think about someone who is one with us, oftentimes our mothers are that person who loves us with such tender care and unconditional love. And our mothers are an example for us of dedication, how they dedicate their lives for us, laying them down. So we need to make sure that on this Good Shepherd Sunday and on Mother's Day, we thank the people who hand on their faith to us, who are models of Jesus in our daily lives. The end of the gospel says, I came so that they might have life and have it more abundantly. And Jesus, who is our Good Shepherd, is raised from the dead and is here in our midst so that we might have life. And as we heard in the second reading from St. Paul, Christ left you an example that you should follow in his footsteps. So let us follow in the footsteps of Jesus, who is indeed our Good Shepherd.